Expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Welcome to Autism Live. Good morning. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's Wednesday. You know, I get excited on Wednesday because a lot happens here on Wednesday. And I have to tell you, I have an announcement for you that even more is going to be happening on Wednesdays. Later on today, we're going to have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and I'm just going to give away the headline that Shelley Hendrix from Autism Votes is going to be with us. And it really is an interview you're not going to want to miss. We know that there was a presidential debate last week. We know that there is a vice presidential debate tomorrow night. There are 2 more presidential debates coming up, but more importantly, there's an election coming. And, you know, nobody's trying to politicize autism. Let's be 100% clear about that, right? Because we can't afford to. We absolutely can't afford to. This is bipartisan and beyond. Autism is not discriminatory in terms of who it affects. It affects all of us. So, but it is important to recognize that someone will be in office and that we need to make sure that autism is a part of what happens. Our kids depend upon it. Our young adults depend on it. We're all depending upon it. And really our society depends upon it. If 1 in 88 boys, or 1 in 88 in general, and that's an old number, 1 in 54 boys, society needs to be having some answers, and we need some help. So we're going to talk about some of those things with Shelley, but as I mentioned, I've got an announcement about things that are coming up on Wednesday mornings. Starting on November 7th of this year, we're going to introduce a new segment on Autism Live on Wednesday mornings, right at the top of the show, 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We have a new segment called Ask Dr. Doreen. And I'm grinning ear to ear because I'm so excited about this. Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh has cleared her schedule to be with us for an hour on Wednesday mornings to answer your questions. It doesn't get any better than this. We'll have our live feature set up so that you at home can ask her questions. Again, that starts on November 7th. I know that a lot of you are aware of who Dr. Granpeesheh is, and if you're not aware, I'm so thrilled that we'll have an opportunity to introduce you to her. She is a visionary in the field of autism. She is the founder of the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and an amazing woman who has been working in the field of autism for well over 20 years, and she does not look it. Can I just say that? And really has been instrumental in a lot of changes that have happened, and I can tell you that I've had the opportunity to hear her speak both publicly and privately, and she's an amazing woman. She truly is a visionary, and I've said before, when I hear her speak, I'm filled with hope because she gets it in a way that I'm going to say this, and I hope I don't feel the need to take it back, but you all know if you're a parent of a child with autism, there is a thing that a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people just don't get what it is you're going through and what it feels like and what you need to do. There are people who have a great deal of empathy, but they don't get it. They can't get it. We don't want to make them feel bad about the fact that they don't get it, can't get it, but there are very few people that I have met on this journey through autism who don't have a child on the spectrum who truly get it. And Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh gets it. And I certainly have seen evidence of that in my life. So I'm thrilled that she's going to have the time to be here with us, with you, and you can ask her questions. Is that not amazing? And it's free. a forum in which you can pose questions on a regular basis. So something happens and you want to ask somebody a question who has a great deal of experience, there it is, Dr. Doreen Granpeche. So will be very thrilling. I know I've mentioned to you guys that I'm going to be attending, both Emily Goodwin, our technical director, and I are attending the conference this weekend for ARI, the Autism Research Institute. We had Denise Fulton on a couple of weeks ago on the show talking about that conference. It is starting tomorrow, but Emily and I will be there starting on Friday. So we'll be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is taking place in Garden Grove, California. Now, a couple of things I want to tell you. First of all, if you're on the west coast of California and you have the ability to attend the conference, it's not too late to register. You can register, and it's less expensive to register before the day of. So register today if you plan on going, and please come up and introduce yourself to us while we're at the conference, because we want to meet you. But if you aren't able to go to the conference, please do not beat yourself up about it, because I mentioned on the show that I went to my first conference 2 years ago, and that's the only conference that I had of ARIs that I had ever been able to get to. There are a lot of people that are at a place in their life when they can't get to a conference. I used to say, who goes to these conferences? How can you? How do you work that out? Where's your child? Is your child having therapy while you're gone? How are you paying for somebody to be there? I don't know how you do this. I was completely overwhelmed by the idea of it way back when. So if that's where you are, please know that I get it. But what's wonderful is that ARI videotapes everything, and you will be able to watch all the videotapes of the talks at a later date. So you're not let out, and we're going to be there talking with people, interviewing them, and come back hopefully with some good information for you. So hopefully, I know we'll come back with some good information. So don't feel bad. That's my big thing for you to say. You do what you can on the day that you can. And someday you will be able to go to a conference. And if that's next spring, that's wonderful. Next fall, that's wonderful. If it's not for 4 years, know that that's how much time it takes. But you're not cut out from the information, is what I want you to know. Because there's lots of different ways to access that information. And we'll keep telling you when those videos are available on ARI's website. All right. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking about autism and how we can be the most effective, most efficient working with a child on the autism spectrum. We want to help all of our children on the autism, all of them, to reach their fullest potential. Is that going to be different for different children? You betcha, because they're all individuals. We all know that there's this spectrum, right? People have different abilities and they have different deficits of abilities, but we can help our children and our young adults to gain skills, and we can decrease those challenging behaviors that we've been talking about all week long. And how can we do that? Well, we talk about ABA a lot here on the show, applied behavior analysis, because it is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It has been shown to be effective in creating progress for all of our kids wherever they are on the spectrum. And it's a huge topic that is something that has to be delivered in a very child-specific way. So there's lots to talk about. So we talk about that here. But we talk about a lot of different things on the show about finding our way, coping with the stress, coping with the financial burden of autism, the emotional toll that it takes on a family, and everything in between, right? And the most important thing to me is that this be a conversation between all of us. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I am not an expert in autism. I am not an expert in ABA. Wish I was. Keep trying to be for my child at home, because what I am is a parent of a child who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He's now 9. And he's just the best. We all love our kids, right? And we should. We sure should, because they're incredible. And the amount of work that they have to do to be able to find the joy and happiness and potential in our world is more than it should be, right? But they do it because they're brave and they're hardworking. I've never met a child with autism who's lazy. It can't be. And if you're a parent, you can't afford to be either. I keep trying to find a way, but it doesn't work out. In any case, so I'm here as a parent. I don't pretend to know what you're going through, because it's different for everybody, right? But I want you to know that my heart is full of hope for you and for your children, that I know that there is progress. I know it. And we're going to talk some more about that in a little while, because I have a little, I don't know whether it's I guess it's an amends that I need to make that we're going to talk about in a little while. But I don't want to get too far down the road without taking care of telling you how you can participate in this show. So if you're watching us on autism-live.com, you see that there's a box there that says Shannon is answering right now. That's your opportunity to type in there whatever you would like, send your questions, your thoughts, your concerns, topics that you want to see covered on the show, and we can talk about that here on the show in live time. If you're watching and it says rebroadcast instead of Shannon is answering right now, then you're watching a show that has been taped in our recent past. And I should say recorded. We don't tape anything anymore, do we? But in any case, I'm showing my age here. There are lots of ways to get a hold of us if you're watching us in a pre-recorded format, or if you're watching us on a different site, some of which we'll talk about in just a minute. So how can you get a hold of us? Well, you can email us. We get your email and we will put it on the next available live show, and we'll also send you a typewritten response. So it's a great way to be in touch with us. You can phone us. We have a phone line that patches directly into the studio, and we love a chance to be able to talk with you, or you can talk with one of our guests. Absolutely cherish the opportunity to speak to you in that way. You can Skype with us. We're going to be Skyping a little bit later with Shelley Hendrix from Autism Votes, but we can Skype with you as well. And if you have a camera on your computer, we can have your picture right up next to ours. Or if you don't have a camera, don't feel bad about that. We've Skyped audio only several times, and we're happy to do that as well. It's just like having a phone line. And we take Skype International. So if you're somewhere halfway around the world, we love the opportunity to talk to you on Skype. You can also participate with us on Facebook. We have our page there, which is relatively new, so we appreciate your likes on our Facebook page. Check out all the links and interviews that we have there, both from our show and from other sites. If you have something that you would like us to feature on our Facebook page, let us know. Message us on the Facebook page. But again, we appreciate your likes while you're there, and while you're there, answer the question of the day. It's good for you, and it's good for people reading as well. It has a far-reaching effect. And you can also tweet with us. I have Twitter open right here in front of me. So feel free to tweet away. We talk about with ABA the importance of learning opportunities, that the more you do something and the more you get feedback, the better you will get at. Well, I need to get better at Twitter, and the only way I'm going to do it is if you guys give me more opportunities. So tweet away with us. Okay, I mentioned that there's lots of different ways to watch the show. You can be watching us on autism-live.com, or you can be watching us on blip.tv. We have our own channel there. You can search topics. If there's a specific person that you want to see the interview with, you can find all of that on blip.tv, searching keywords. You can also tune in and watch us on our very own YouTube channel. There we are. And we appreciate your comments on our YouTube channel. Love the guy who wrote it and said that I was an old B word. Because of my comments on 50 Cent. So truly, any comment that you give us, good, bad, or indifferent, we really appreciate it. We do read them. And if you didn't see what he said, you should check it out. Check out our 50 Cent video and see what he said in my response to it. I have to say that I thoroughly enjoyed it. And because I am old, and I have been called a B word before, especially in conjunction with IEPs. It all works for me. I wear it proudly. In any case, share what you see freely on YouTube. We've put this information together for you to be free and to be shared. So when it's relevant, share it. And you can also download us for free on iTunes. The full entire show's audio and picture on iTunes. Just search Autism Live. All right, we like to start every morning, and we're a little late this morning, but with something that I fondly refer to as the jargon of the day, the jargon du jour. This is when we take one word, one phrase, one anagram, program and figure out what in the hey nani nani these experts are talking about. So important that we make friends with the jargon. Oh, yeah, it's hard. It's hard some days. But you know, when you go in to meet with somebody and you've waited for a long time for the meeting, you need to be able to understand what they're saying about your child. And every time we have to stop to say, what does that mean? It holds things up. But if we don't stop and say, what does that mean? We get barraged with this information and we leave and say, I don't really know what we're talking about. So we try to take the jargon in those little itty bitty bits, just like we teach our kids, make it manageable and figure out how does this apply to our individual kids. We give you an actual definition and sometimes we make fun of the actual definition because it's enjoyable. It's important to find joy where we can, right? And then we give you a working definition and hopefully give you some circumstances in which you can apply it in your home or in your classroom or in your practice. Okay, today's phrase is one of those phrases that goes whoop over the top of your head, but once you figure out what it means, the light bulb goes off. So today we are talking about non-contingent reinforcement. Oh, right? Sounds good. Okay. Our working definition is a procedure in which stimuli with known reinforcing properties are presented on a fixed time or variable time schedule. Thank you so much. It's clearer now, isn't it? Yeah, not so much. The first time I read this, I went, yeah, now I know exactly what to do. Okay, so let's see if our working definition helps us a little bit better. Okay, the child is given reinforcement on a schedule, regardless of whether they've demonstrated a behavior or not. Okay, so now we understand what it is, but why on earth would you do that? We always talk about how there's the antecedent, something that happens, the behavior, and then the reinforcement. So we're always trying to link up for the child. I say this, you do this, you get reinforced. Why on earth would we just give reinforcement on a schedule? Why on earth would we do that? Because in certain circumstances, it's going to help us to prevent challenging behavior. Wah, cue the angels singing. Okay, perfect example. We talk all the time about the function of a behavior. Every behavior that's done over and over and over again has a function or we wouldn't do it. Principle number one, in order for any behavior to be maintained, it has to be reinforcing in some way. And so BCBAs, Board Certified Behavior Analysts, come in and determine, they look at a challenging behavior and they figure out what the function of the behavior is. What's the paycheck for this behavior? And once we figure out the function of the behavior, then we can figure out an intervention that is going to solve, you know, it's like there's a breakdown. The child is trying to communicate something, but the wires aren't connected, and then we're getting challenging behavior. So once we know the function of the behavior, we know how we need to rehook up these wires so the child gets what they want in a different way, an appropriate way, and we don't need the challenging behavior anymore to communicate what they want. Sometimes, for instance, the function of a behavior is attention. Oh, this is something we're all familiar with, right? The child who wants attention. How many times have we been someplace and somebody picks up a phone and starts to talk, and that's right when the child comes over and, you know, wants, if it's a child who's verbal, wants to talk. If it's a child who's not verbal, they want attention. Right? And what happens when a child doesn't get the amount of attention that they want? They will start doing things to get attention. And by the way, this is all children. This is not just children on the spectrum. I have a friend who has a precious little boy who he is 3 now, and he is speaking. He's developing typically, and they're a little used to him not speaking. He has a tiny little voice too, very tiny little voice. But so he will say something and there's a whole lot of people talking and frequently nobody hears him. And so he'll say it again and he'll say it again. And then what does this neurotypical 3-year-old do? He begins to yell and goes, hey! Literally shaking and going, hey! Until somebody listens. And if nobody does listen, he begins kicking people. Right? This is a behavior we don't want to see, but this child, in order to be heard, this is what he does. What do our kids on the spectrum do in order to get attention? Everything under the sun. Everything under the sun, including sometimes hurting themselves. That's what my son did. When he wanted my attention and he didn't know how to ask for it, sometimes he'd go bang his head on the kitchen floor. Okay, well, I don't want him to be banging his head on the kitchen floor, obviously, right? And so when we were able to determine the function of that behavior, it was put on extinction, so we did not give attention to the banging the head on the floor anymore. We talked about extinction and extinction burst yesterday and the day before, so I no longer could give attention for him hitting his head on the kitchen floor because we didn't want that behavior to get a paycheck. But we wanted to not have that behavior even happen at all. So what we did was non-contingent reinforcement. So I was on a schedule that whether he did something proper or not, I had to give him attention on a regular basis. And at first I was on a timer where it was every 4 minutes where I had to pay attention and do something with him and touch him so that we didn't get to the point where he needed to bang his head on the kitchen floor. It starts to make sense, right? This is particularly brilliant in a classroom situation or when you're going out into public. Before the child gets to challenging behavior, before they get to tantrum, before they get to meltdown, if attention is something that drives them, then if we just remind ourselves, okay, every couple of minutes, I'm going to pay attention to this child, we don't get to the tantrum. We don't get to the meltdown. Now, here's the important part here. If the function of the behavior is attention, okay? This isn't going to work for all things, but it works really well with attention. I am a former teacher, and being in a classroom, you can quickly identify the child who is attention-driven. Man, they're into everything. They're doing things to other people. They're just busy, 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 right? And if we, in a classroom, say, okay, I'm going to give this child a job that requires them to get a lot of attention, and I'm going to give them regular praise on a very specific schedule. It feels time intensive in the beginning because you think, oh man, this is going to be so much work, except it's so much easier to do that than to deal with the challenging behavior. To every once in a while, like every 2 minutes, look up and go, great job, Harold. You're doing wonderfully. I really love that. And you start at 2 minutes, but then you move to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And then you move to 3 minutes and you see what it takes to be able to maintain it. So you can get the child to the point where you only have to give them attention every 30 minutes. And they get their work done, and they're happy, and they're productive, and they're not hurting another child or getting up out of their desk and going and sharpening their pencil 22 times. So non-contingent reinforcement, you give it on a schedule, and it's really meant to feed that bank so that it doesn't get empty. Feed that attention bank or whatever it is that you're doing for the reinforcement, feeding the bank so that you don't get to the point where the bank is so empty that they're screaming for the bank to be filled. It's a really powerful tool for some challenging behavior. It can really make a huge difference. Okay, so that's our jargon for the day. Non-contingent reinforcement. It's not contingent on anything. You're just giving it. You're just giving it out. Filling that bank up. Okay, we always have a question of the day for you, and our question today, you guys have already checked some of the things that you guys have written in. It's really pretty amazing. But if you haven't written in already, now's a great time to write in on Twitter and Facebook. What gets your child to stop engaging in challenging behavior? And it's a great thing to think about. Because we want that challenging behavior to diminish, right? It's a great thing to share so that other people can see, because there's a lot of people out there who don't know that you can get challenging behavior to stop or greatly diminish. They have given up. They think, oh, that's your child, that's not my child. It's not the truth. Because if we're smart about it and using help and support, like with a BCBA who's knowledgeable with autism, we can greatly diminish challenging behavior or get rid of it altogether. Some of it takes longer than others, but we can change challenging behavior. So write in and fill other people with hope that they too can change their child's challenging behavior. All right, we always have a topic of the day, of the week, and our topic this entire week is challenging behavior. I know. Sort of makes sense after all the things we've been talking about. And this is one of our favorite topics of the day and of the week because, honestly, it's where a lot of us need help and support. You guys wrote in on Monday to the question of the day. We asked, how does it feel when your child is engaging in challenging behavior? And we didn't get a chance to read the responses, and they're lengthy. But I would encourage you to check out on our Facebook and take a look at some of the things that parents wrote in because it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I shared the other day that my son engaged in some challenging behavior for the first time in a long time, a couple of weeks ago, and it was like a death to me. I grieved it. It was just like, oh no. And I was right back to square one, feeling like when he was 3 and thinking, is this the rest of my life? Is this really going to be what my life is about? This is not what I had planned. This is not what I wanted. This is horrible. So we want to be smart about challenging behaviors. And I can tell you that they greatly, greatly diminish. Apparently, they don't ever go completely away. And I know people have teenagers and they go, oh, good luck, you know. But after that momentary thing when I was like, oh, I kind of want to die, everything that I knew about ABA and everything that I knew about my child kicked in, and we were able to get through the moment. Yes, later on I shed tears. I absolutely did. But everything worked out okay, and we survived it, and I don't live in that moment every day. It had been well over a year since we had had anything like that. So it does get a lot better. All right, so to that end, some of the different things that we have going on. Today we've got a success tip that's coming up, and we have a play tip about read to me books, some advice about how we can get our kids engaged in books and get them to be interactive, which is really fun. And then at the top of the hour, we have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson will be here, and our special guest via Skype will be Shelley Hendrix from Autism Votes. You're really not going to want to miss it. There's a big event that's happening tomorrow that really I think we're all going to want to show up for, and it'll only take a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes, but we can all show up tomorrow in a way that could change things for our kids forever. So stick with us, an exciting day on Autism Live. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, I'm Bryce Myler, and I'm the Contracts Director for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I've been here for about 5 years. CARD has several employees with many years of insurance experience, dealing with insurance, dealing with pre-authorizations, dealing with discovering whether there's coverage or not. So we have more experience than any ABA provider that I've ever come across. So for a prospective client, somebody that may be interested in, ABA therapy and what CARD has to offer, we have a special 800 number, and you call that number. They will talk to you about what we have to offer, how ABA works. He'll ask you for the front and back of your ID card, and then we check to see if you do or do not have coverage. If you have coverage for ABA therapy, we try to do whatever we can to set it up where we can bill for you and you don't have to fight with the insurance company every month to get your claims paid. For California residents, we recently did a series of insurance trainings all over the state, and you can click on the link below to watch pretty much the full presentation. It has a lot of information, how you can get your insurance company to comply with what they're supposed to do, understanding the networks, and many other valuable pieces of information.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I wanted to take a moment, and I mentioned earlier that I kind of need to make an amends because I was thinking about this the other day, and what precipitated this, a friend had emailed me that I hadn't talked to in a little while, and a little over a year ago, the friend had emailed me and said, hey, I I have a question for you. A friend of our family, their child was just diagnosed with autism. I know this is an area which you're very familiar with, and we'd like a little direction here in terms of how do we be good friends, and is there anything in particular that you would say to this mom who's just had the child diagnosed? And I wrote back and said a lot of things, and usually when somebody writes me and says, will you talk to my friend? I always say yes. I would love to talk to your friend when your friend is ready. And here is my phone number, and you can have your friend call me, and when they're ready, I'll be happy to talk to them. But years ago, I stopped taking people's number to call them because sometimes you're just not ready. Sometimes you just aren't ready. And here on the show, that I talk a lot about ABA and the benefits of ABA, and that it's the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. I want to honor where everybody is. I really, truly do. I want to honor, and if people aren't ready to do something, I like to leave room for you to be able to make the decisions. And I always say, and I firmly believe this, that a parent's gut is the best compass for what needs to happen. However, as I was thinking about this the other morning, I was reminded that when my child was newly diagnosed, while my gut had a lot of things going on, my gut was saying find information. Find information and get educated. And I went to do that, and I heard so much chatter that I couldn't pare it down. And I had some people saying do ABA and some people saying don't do ABA, and I couldn't sort the two out. And it took meeting a family who were complete and total strangers to me. Complete and total strangers. My job had sent me to their home, and we got into a conversation, and I said my child had just been diagnosed with autism. They introduced me to their son and said, you're the luckiest person on the face of the earth because you came to our house. And we're going to tell you that you need to start ABA immediately, like yesterday. And that it's so important for you to get 25 to 40 hours of ABA on board as soon as possible. And they didn't say to me, but we're going to wait and say this to you when you're ready. And this dawned on me yesterday, and I thought, I've been trying to be respectful, and I want to be respectful of people's process. But the truth of the matter is that, especially if you have a child who is under the age of 5, what I need to say to you is you can't wait. You can't wait for your process to be, the jury has come in, the verdict is in, even the insurance companies say that if you want the best possible, all the science has shown us, if you want the best possible outcome for your child, and your child is under the age of 5, you need to start 25 to 40 hours a week of ABA therapy. Yep, there's a lot of other things that you can do in conjunction with that. Absolutely. But that is the cornerstone. And you gotta start it. And it takes a while to start it. And I know that there are funding issues to start it. And I want to help you to figure out all the different pathways to answer all the different varied questions that you may have about that. But that doesn't stop the fundamental truth. If your child is under the age of 5, 25 to 40 hours of ABA is what you have to shoot for. And I want to say this to you, and I want to make amends for the fact that I don't say this enough, because I need to get 100% clear with everybody about that. I think I've soft pedaled and said I want to be, because I know you're stressed. I know you're stressed. And I know you're sitting there thinking, Shannon, but I don't have access to that, and I don't have access to the money. But that is a different issue. I know it goes hand in hand, and we have to solve that, but we need to get clear on what it is you're going to do. That you are going to get your child 25 to 40 hours a week of ABA therapy if your child is under the age of 5. If your child is older than 5, we're going to look at it in a slightly different way. But younger than the age of 5, it just is what has to be. And there's lots of different things that you can do for funding. We talk about it on the show. I'm happy to help you to figure out. It's a puzzle, right? Because it depends on where you are in the world. But I'm happy to sit in a comfortable place and tell you it can be worked out wherever you are. People have done it. You would not be the first person. When you make up your mind and say, nope, I'm immovable on this, it's got to be 25 to 40 hours a week, things move. It may be that you already are eligible for insurance. I've talked to so many parents recently that are eligible for ABA through insurance and they didn't know it. Let's not have that be the guilt that we carry around, finding out that it was available and you could afford it and you just didn't know. Let's make sure that we find that out. There are a lot of you still who don't have access to insurance, but there are grants and there is CARD e-learning and there is skills and there are people who are using that with volunteers in their area and doing it with their family, and they're getting it done. 25 to 40 hours a week. You may have to piece it together. It may be that your insurance is going to pay for 10 hours a week, and then you're going to go to the local Elks Club and the local sorority and get them together and piece together how they're going to do 20 more hours of volunteer work with your child, and you're going to help to get them trained. But you got to do it. You got to do it, and I don't want to meet you sometime at a conference and have to look you in the eye and have you say to me, Shannon, why didn't you tell me? So I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to say it more because I don't think I'm saying it enough. 25 to 40 hours if your child is under the age of 5. Now, for those of you who go, oh, my child is 6, or oh, my child is 10, I want you to know that it doesn't mean you give up on this. It means that the equation is slightly different. That we really got to look at once we're at that age, we're really, it's a whole different thing because the children are much more individualized. We know under the age of 5, while they're still individuals, there's a core set of things that we know we can give those children that are going to be really effective at them making progress. It gets much more individualized after the age of 5. And the amount of hours that you can do gets much more individualized, and the amount of hours that's productive gets much more individualized. So I can't say to you carte blanche 25 to 40 hours a week, but I can say to you, you have to get your child evaluated by people who are going to evaluate where your child is, not where your funding is. Really super duper important. And if you need a grant for that, I can help you with some suggestions about where you want to apply for that grant. But that becomes the first piece if your child is over 5, and then you're going to get a prescription for what is appropriate. But under 5, we already know what the prescription is. 25 to 40 hours a week. And you have to figure it out. I am here for you to help you to figure that out. All you have to do is write to me and say, here's where I live, here's what my situation is, and I'll give you some things. You're still going to have to do the legwork, right? But I'll give you some suggestions of, where to go, who to talk to, what question to ask, because let's figure it out. Let's figure it out. I can't bear if in 5 years we're going to be talking to parents who say, I just didn't know. That can't be. Not on my watch. We already have a generation of kids and parents who sit there and say, oh, my child is 10 and I didn't know and it wasn't there. It can't be that way 5 years from now. Okay, so I apologize that I have not said it enough. That's my amends to you, but I'm going to say it more. 25 to 40 hours a week. Let's make it happen. Parent to parent. It's got to happen. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about our play tip, Read to Me books, how we help our children to be able to read with us and make it interactive. Stick with us.
Mostly the behavior started at night, but it was invading the day, where he would just speak one syllable and babble and pace around.
When she was a year old, she lost speech. She did never seem to request me for anything, even for food. He told me over the phone that I should just put her in an institution. I was devastated. What institution?
a hospital.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
He told me that it was possible or likely that Ruffin would never be employed, that he would never work productively, that he would not know that I loved him, nor would he love me, nor would he be likely to marry.
There's a 50% chance that he won't be able to talk at all, but if he does talk, he will only be able to, you know, make simple desire requests. I want, things like that. And probably by the time he was 10, he'd be in a home.
Doreen told me that he would recover, and Doreen told me that he would go to regular kindergarten.
I really have a very normal kid now, and lots of normal worries, but not extraordinary ones.
My name is Deli Popola, and I'm one of the creators of the Autism.com. The Autism.com is an online support system for families and specialists who are affected by autism across the whole world. Share inspirational stories, find resources in their area. Hope you can join.
Welcome back. It's time to talk about play skills. When our children are on the autism spectrum, a lot of times play skills get put on a back burner, and that's I think, a disservice to our kids. We want to teach our child play skills because it helps with everything else. It helps with interaction. It helps with all those social skills. It can help to reduce stress. It can help them to see that you don't always, perseverance, because you don't always succeed in everything. When we play, we learn how to fail and persevere instead of perseveration, right? So play skills, really important. And one of the things that we do in play skills are read to me books and nursery rhymes. This is our child's introduction to way pre-reading, so it's going to help with academic skills. But again, it really has to do with social interaction, and it's a perfect opportunity. A lot of times our kids are interested in things as opposed to people, and with a book we've got a thing and a person, and we can interact and work on joint attention. So us interacting with the child and interacting with the book with the child. Really great play skills. But here are some things that we need to keep in mind, and a lot of these things hold true for all kinds of play skills. First and foremost, we have to remember to make it fun. There is an assumption in us that play is fun, but you know what? For our kids, not so much. They aren't reinforced by it a lot of times, and the book, you know, it may be something that is of no interest to them whatsoever. So we have to make it fun. We have to pair it with things that are fun and make it exciting and one of the most pleasurable times of the day for them. And that may mean bringing in external reinforcement for a period of time and then fading it out. I've shared before that with my son, he was a very busy boy. I couldn't get him to sit down and do anything. But I don't know how we came upon this, but we discovered that at bedtime when we wanted to sit and read with him, that the way we could get him to be still and that he found it reinforcing was to hand him a cold apple. And then he had something to hold in his hands, and he would kind of gnaw at it, but he never really got a big bite taken out of it ever. But there was something about the cold in his hands that was very reinforcing to him. It was very individual to him. I'm not suggesting that you guys all try that with your child, but figure out what will get your child to sit with you. Is there something that they can hold on to, whether it's a blankie or a toy? Make it fun and reinforcing for them. Make it interactive. We're going to see some clips of some people reading with books, and you'll see there's a lot of pointing and touching and talking and asking questions, and make eye contact with the child. Here we see a mom sitting there with her child on her lap, and there's flaps to be lifted up to look at, and she's pointing at them and encouraging the daughter to touch the book. There's all those Pat the Bunny books books. My son had, it's a Usborne book that was, That's Not My Dinosaur was the title of it. And each dinosaur on the page, because he liked dinosaurs and we want to, as much as possible, make it as reinforcing as possible, each dinosaur had a different texture. And so there was a little mouse that had a scuba mask that would pop up over the top of the dinosaur, and he would say, "That's not my dinosaur, its spines are too rough." And we would touch the spines of the dinosaur and they would be rough. And then we would turn the page, "That's not my dinosaur, his spines are too smooth," and we would touch those. Did my son understand what rough and smooth were at that time? No. And was I trying to get him to understand what rough and smooth were? No. I mean, if he does, as you know, as something that goes hand in hand, great. But in the meantime, I'm interacting with him, and we would laugh, and we would look and say, "Where is the mouse?" And in the Usborne books, they always have a duck on each page. And so I would say, "Where's the duck?" And we would look and find the duck, and I would say, "Point to the duck," and I would have to prompt him to point to the duck, but he would. And I would go, "Yay, it's the duck," and tickle him. So we're reinforcing it. We want to prompt that interaction by saying, point. One of my favorite books, I should have brought it with me today. We're going on a bear hunt, because there are all these interactive things that you can do while you're doing the book. They talk about these different places that they have to go. They have to go through a field, and it's squishy, squishy, squishy. And so we would rock and make a squish noise, and he thought it was fabulous fun when we were doing this. And I would point and say, "Where's the baby?" Because there's a baby on every page, and he would find the baby. And I'd say, "Where's the dog?" And he'd find the dog, making it as interactive as possible and reinforcing that interaction. And so here we see another this is a therapist sitting with a child and reading. And I want you to notice that it's our next tip to make sure that the child has access to the book. Do you see how they're putting the children in front of them? So they're giving them the same point of view that they have, but you see them turning the child so that they can talk with them and interact and point to the book. But it's really important that we use books that the children can touch. I love iPads, and I love this digital age where everything is in a format and that we can swipe and we can turn, and there's not piles of things. It's fabulous, but there's something about a book, and making the tactile feel of books be exciting to children, and especially early reading books that have they have thick pages and things that you can touch. This is a therapist, Peter Farrig, showing a child and allowing the child to pick which book that they want to read. So we can ask, we can make that a part of the ritual. Which book do you want to read? Here are the 3 choices. Which one do you want to read? Builds that interaction. And of course, we want to reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. Whatever it takes for it to be reinforcing to you and to your child, it is such a worthwhile experience, because it's going to help your child to attend in school. It's going to help your child as they move into being a pre-reader and being a reader to enjoy a book. Look, it's a lifelong love if you can get your child to love a book. In my family, we call it eating a book. And there's a point in the progression of everyone's life when they either become someone who loves a book or isn't as interested in reading. I had an opportunity to talk to a friend from college recently that I remember on the first day of college. I showed up and I was a roommate with this person for a while. I showed up and I had my book underneath my arm because I was reading a book, and it was The Last Convertible. That was what I was reading as I went off to college. Great book, by the way. And I came in and I was unpacking my stuff and had 2 roommates, and the one said, "What's that? Have you already started classes early?" And I said, No, this is a great book I'm reading." And she looked at me and said, "You're reading a book and you don't have to?" And I looked at her. She looked at me like I was crazy. I looked at her like she was crazy, and I said, "Oh my goodness, you don't love books?" And she really had never read a book for leisure. And I have to say that this is a person who is a reading specialist in classrooms helping our children to read now, and who loves books and who has books and has much more time to read than I do. But the passion that somebody can have to read books, and you know what they say, if you love to read, if you pick up a book, you can go anywhere. absolutely anywhere. So we want to instill that with our children, but at the same time, we're working on social skills, we're working on play skills, we're working on that joint attention, we're working on perspective taking, early perspective taking, and helping our children to find something else to be passionate about. It's a wonderful, wonderful skill that we all need to focus on with our children. Read to me books, make it fun, make it interactive, let the child have access to the book, and reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. Prompt that interaction. It really makes it fun. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with a success tip for helping us to find great babysitters, so stick with us.
Just go like this. Can you see me? Puedes mirarme aquí? Okay. Hi, I'm Rebecca Ishida. Say hi, Ethan. Hi. My son was diagnosed with autism in November 2004. With Ethan, almost immediately, we noticed things that were troublesome, that he just didn't sleep. He would vomit in the crib. There were a lot of sensory issues.
Then he'd have like 20 of the trains lined up, and if you came in and took one train out, just meltdown completely. Guttural instinct is to think that there's nothing wrong. Who wants to look at their child and go, there's something wrong with that child? You don't. You always want to see the best in your child.
Will my kid be able to go to school? Will he interact with his peers? Will he be able to have a healthy relationship? Will he get married? I really thought that autism was like a death sentence. A lot of hope was given to me through CARD. This was my third agency, and the best agency we had. And there was no way in the world I was going to give up CARD because of the gains I saw Ethan was having.
Yeah, you did it!
And I remember when Doreen saw us for the evaluation, she says, but by the time he's 6, he will be recovered. And that's exactly what happened.
I'll fix that.
Welcome back. It's time to talk about success in getting babysitters. This is a topic that we've talked about a couple of times, and I, like you, needed some help and support. And so we talked to some people about what were the keys to successfully getting the right babysitter and starting to work with the right babysitter. And here we got just a couple of tips from them that I think are really pivotal. Number one, when we work with therapists, and if you work with an ABA provider, you will notice that they will ask you to participate in what they call overlaps. And this is when a more senior therapist is there with a junior therapist and working with a child interchangeably, and they take turns doing things so that the younger therapist can watch the more seasoned therapist do things, and then the more seasoned therapist can say, okay, now you do something with a child and give pointers, and help them to get more adept at what they're doing. So we're not just throwing somebody into the deep end of the pool. Well, we can do this as parents. That I know it's a cost, but it's worth it to be able to know that when you're actually leaving your home and leaving your child with somebody, that they're with somebody who's prepared to be with your child. And one of the suggestions that we were given is to do essentially overlaps with them. Invite them to come, and of course you're going to have to pay them, so you got a budget for it. It may take time. But invite them to come to your house, to be there when you're there, and have them see you interact with the child, and then give them an opportunity and say, okay, now you go and do this with them. Sometimes you're going to want to be in the room. Other times you can be watching from a baby monitor, and say to the babysitter, I'm going to be watching from the baby monitor, but you go play with the child so that I can see, and then I'll give you some tips later on about, you make sure that you say this, make sure that you do this, this is going to make the interaction better for both of them. Make sure that you give clear examples of expectations for individual behaviors. I think that that is great advice, because there are some things with your child that if you, sometimes it's a flexibility issue, that if you put on the pajama shirt before the pajama bottoms, the rest of the night's going to be a mess, right? I mean, that's just like an example that I picked out of thin air, but there are things that throw our kids off. So give clear examples of, these are the things that we want you to do because you don't want to pick a battle, right? But if you engage, if you happen to come across this particular behavior, here's what we want you to do. For instance, if your child is biting, and as we talked about the other day, you've put biting on extinction, and you've seen that biting, the function of this particular behavior is to get attention, you need to be very clear with your babysitter that my child bites. And my child may bite you if they don't get enough attention, which means I want you to give attention to them on a regular basis, that non-contingent reinforcement we were talking about earlier. So I want you to give attention to them on a regular basis, like every 5 minutes. And if my child takes your arm and goes to bite you, here's how I want you to block so that you don't get bit. But if you get bit, I need for you not to say anything about it, but get away from my child so that they don't have the opportunity to bite you again. And then I will apologize to you when I get home. But please don't say, ow. Please don't say, hey, don't bite me, right? Because otherwise your extinction procedure is going to be blown sky high, and you're going to have to start all over when the babysitter has left and you're back with your child. So be 100% clear about what your expectations are for individual behaviors. And in the beginning, when you have the babysitter come and you're not there, so let's say you've done the overlaps and you feel very comfortable and say, this is great, then have the babysitter come and have them come early and stay, and maybe you only leave for 15 minutes and come back. You might think to yourself, that's a terrible waste of money, except that it isn't, because while the babysitter is there, you can be doing other things that you can't do when your child is constantly in your circle of attention. Feel free to take you can set the baby monitor up in the bathroom and take a bubble bath while the babysitter is there. That's an overlap. It absolutely is. So, or maybe it's time that you sit down and sit with the computer and say, okay, where am I getting the funding for the ABA? And you're listening to the monitor, and you're listening to what the babysitter is doing, but you're there in case the babysitter needs you. It's a really good way of looking at this. And if you do that slowly, what's going to be able to happen is that you're going to be able to go out with your significant other, have a babysitter, know that your child is safe, know that the babysitter is safe, and that you can relax and enjoy yourself. It's setting yourself up for success. We can do this, right? I can do this, you can do this. It's a great thing to do. Okay. It's time for the A Word. This is the documentary that's being made by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. At this point in the series, you'll see he's 6 weeks into therapy, ABA therapy, and he's making tremendous progress. At one point, they sit and read a book with him because they're looking for some receptive labels to see what he knows and what he doesn't know, so that they can teach things to him that he doesn't know. So they're just probing it to see, but it's a perfect opportunity to see that read to me book moment happening with Jack Riley at this point in the game. So take a look. This is the A Word.
B. Good word. You say T. Oh, there's Miss Jessica. Hello. Hi. Say hi. What do you see? What is it? What's that? Giraffe. He's getting really good at it. What's that guy? Who's this guy?
We have this one program called NVI, which is non-vocal imitation, so he basically has to imitate whatever we do. So we were working on object manipulation, and then Tuesday I tried doing more gross motor things like clapping hands or standing or jumping, and he was able to imitate all of those. Ready? Do this! Yay! Very good! Okay, here you go. Who's hiding now? Me? Do this! Good job! Okay, here you go. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, ready? Do this! Yay! Alright! Here you go, Rockstar. Oh, that's so cool. Alright, you ready? a fine motor action with a touch nose. Oh, yeah. How did that happen? You want more? You want more of this? More? Okay. Good asking. We'll do a couple more actions, okay? Do this. Good job. Do this. Good job. Do this. Good try. So here. Can you try? Do this. There you go. All right. Here you go. He's been doing a lot more on his own, even just when I attempt him by just holding the object, not necessarily asking him to imitate more. Cat, that's right. He does do it on his own now, which is really cool. Good asking, buddy. Out. Line that up.
That one's up. Oh, there you go. See? How many up do you want to go?
You touch the block? God, what is it? Good job.
Sorry, I'm just curious.
That's cool. Okay. I'm interested too. Touch shoes. Where's the shoes? Let's go try. Okay. Let's see. You touch crab. Where's the crab? Can you touch it with your finger though? Thank you. Did you see that? What is it? Crab. See, crab. That was so funny. I didn't specify, huh? Touch block. Good job. What is it? What is this? Block. This is his receptive labels, so what I just did basically. And our supervisor had written down things that's in his environment that he might not know or that he might know the labels to, or if he's just seen it or heard the label for it, not necessarily know how to say it per se. And I just went through block, guitar, bear, plane, cat with him, and so he actually knows all of them. So I'm actually going to go through his environment just to see other things like shoes. He actually knew almost everything on here except fork, I think. Yeah. So that's actually really impressive. You amaze me every day, kiddo.
We're taking a walk. We just finished dinner, getting ready to go to bed. But part of our after dinner tradition suddenly has been to take a walk. Make sure. Say, come on, Mama. Come on, Mama. Right, Jack? And then we say, stop. Go. 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 Stop. Go. 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 So we're practicing our stops and goes. Stop. Go. Go. Good stopping. Go. Stop. Go. Good stopping, Jack. Stop. Go. Go. Good stopping. Good job, love. Look at me. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Shannon Penrod.
And I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, and I love being here every Wednesday with you.
I love this time that we get together. I just wish it was longer.
I do too. Maybe we could get a 2-hour block.
There we go.
But if we do that, I want to have a producer.
Okay.
Instead of you and I having to do it all.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We're a little
Any
show
producers out there that want to come out and help us?
We need interns.
We do. We need interns. If any of you need an internship, and I think we can figure out a way for them to get credit, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so if anybody's listening or you have a child that would like to do an internship with us, we,
Absolutely. And it can be local in the Los Angeles
Yes.
area, or we could use a social marketer person who could be anywhere in the world.
We could do that too. So, okay, now that we've done our plug for what we need.
Maybe we can help you guys with some of the things that you need.
Yeah, in the news.
news.
Yes, a lot of things going on. We were both saying before, there's so much going on, especially this week, and we've got a lot of information to give you. But there were a couple of stories that we really wanted to cover, and we weren't here last week.
Right.
One in particular about a new study linking autism with gastrointestinal issues.
Right.
And they're saying in a study that a first of its kind, Micah Mazurek, an assistant professor of health psychology at the University of Missouri, studied the prevalence of gastrointestinal problems on children with autism. She found that of the 2,973 participants, that a great deal of them suffered from constipation, bloating, diarrhea, and other gastrointestinal issues.
Okay, I am just in the first of its kind study.
I know.
You and I had some confusion about this.
Yes.
Now, my understanding was that Dr. Andrew Wakefield did a similar study.
Well, I don't
many years
know
ago.
Because he was looking for something in particular, and I don't know in terms of what they were both looking for. Maybe that's what they're referring to.
Okay.
But I also think what they're referring to is that through a lot of different events, that study has been thrown out.
That study, I know, was also linking the MMR vaccine to possible a linkage to autism. But there was also a lot of information about gastrointestinal issues being in children with autism. And hasn't Dr. Arthur Krigsman done a lot of work in this area as well?
Well, that's what I thought. And maybe we need to look in a little further, because it seems shocking to me, them calling this the first of its kind.
Because moms like you and I that had children that are 9 and 10 on the autism spectrum had known this for many years. And I would say most mothers of children with autism, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, that every mom of a child with autism I know knows about the gut brain connection, which is why a lot of us have tried special diets and have seen improvements through the diets, some of us. So I question this first of its kind study, but maybe it was the methodology he used.
Could be. But what's interesting to me is that they cite here that these problems, the constipation, bloating, diarrhea, and gastrointestinal issues, can make it difficult for a child to learn.
Of course.
And that it makes it uncomfortable for them, and it can make it difficult for them to learn. And I think that that's the key here that needs to be driven home. To me, it seems like a duh.
Right.
That, you know, of course, this would make it difficult for our child to learn. But apparently, it is not that big of a duh in the medical community at large.
Okay.
There are a lot of doctors who understand that it would make it difficult for a child to learn, and we need for more pediatricians, general pediatricians, to understand that when a child has autism, that if they're having these issues, that needs to be addressed medically. And when it is addressed medically, that it leaves the child in a position where they are better able to learn.
So maybe this is a study that was done under all the correct guidelines, and maybe it backs up theories that have long been out there in the so-called biomedical world that treat autism as a whole body disorder as opposed to just a neurological disorder.
Well, at the very least, this is a study that if your child is having gastrointestinal issues and has an autism diagnosis, you could take this study into your pediatrician and say, it is time for us to treat this gastrointestinal issue.
And also say, I'm not making things up, that my child's gastrointestinal issues come along with autism. This is something that accompanies autism with many children.
Right, and we don't have to get into discussions about other things and other studies that get bogged down in other conversations. Here's a study that shows clearly there's some stuff going on, and it's time for us to address it with your individual doctor.
Okay, very good. So
wonderful. We got another study that you had brought to my attention about what's happening in Canada with the funding and how it's affecting one person in particular.
Yeah, we're looking obviously at the issues of when young adults have the system that has been supporting them. You know, it varies country to country, state to state. But Canada, our near neighbor, and we, you know, we're certainly concerned about what's going on there. And there's a young adult there. Well, he's a teen because he's still 19. Seth Miles is going to be affected by a deficit reduction plan that has been implemented in Canada. The result of that has been an end in funding for adults with autism to remain safe in group homes. So what may happen is that this young man, Miles Kirsch, his parents have been notified that the $400 a day funding for his treatment will run out. The parents have spent over $750,000 in his lifetime on treatment, intervention, education, and advocating for him since he was diagnosed at the age of 2. No shocking story there, because we know what it costs to raise a child with autism. And this is an older child, so he probably did not necessarily have the benefit of some of the things we know today about ABA and early intervention. So his parents have sought to place him in a group home. He apparently has some self-destructive, self-injurious behaviors, and they are saying that they cannot find a place for him, and that because of that, he could end up homeless.
Yeah. And this is a real issue in his life and his parents' life, but he is probably by no means the only person. And
it says it's important to note that this is not happening in Miles alone. Agencies across the country in Canada are being told the same thing. There is no more funding. That if these children and then these young adults and late teens end out on the streets and then they act out, they may very well end up in jail, because many of the police departments are not familiar with dealing with a child or an adult with autism, and the way they may not be able to respond to an order, you know, put that down, talk to me. So I am very concerned about this situation because of what is also going on here in our country. And on that note, we've got a great guest today, Shelley Hendrix.
We do. Shelley Hendrix from Autism Votes is going to be with us. And I think you're right. I mean, you know, the expectation is, okay, they don't have any money. And we all understand what that's like. When the money's gone, the money's gone. But these children have to be someplace.
And these
so
adults.
And these adults.
That have not had,
where are they going to be?
They're not recovered. They're not even, a lot of them are at a very low functioning level. Where are we going to put them? What are we going to do with them?
If they're
and
not
what
in
kind
these
of
homes,
drain is it going to be on our culture?
If they're not in these homes, are they going to be on the streets, or are they going to be in jail, or are they going to be in the morgue? You know, I mean, it really comes down to that.
Oh, it does come down to that, Shannon.
And we see this happening in a sister country, and I think it really is a little bit like looking down the tunnel, and we need to be aware of this for our country as well. And this is an election year. And as you said, we've got Shelley Hendrix, who's going to be joining us via Skype in just a few minutes after we take a break, to talk with us about how we can all, we're not trying to make this a partisan issue. In fact, quite the contrary. We want to give both candidates, and all of the candidates, in fact, not just the presidential candidates, all of the candidates in this year's election, an opportunity to step up and speak about what they think should be happening with autism.
If they don't think, if the presidential candidates, or if the incumbent president and Governor Romney don't think this is an issue that they need to be concerned with, note to them, they do need to be concerned with a huge portion of our population, 1 in 88 children, 1 in 54 boys, the relatives of those people, the employers of those people, the educators of those individuals. This is a huge, huge issue for our presidential.
Absolutely. And there's been a big debate in the community about how we want to very gently tap them on the shoulder and go, excuse us, but we're here. Do not forget that we are here.
We are here, and we need to become a voice, and we need to have power behind us. So we're going to talk about that with Shelley.
Shelley's going to tell us how we're going to tap them on the shoulder.
Okay.
All right. So stick with us. Back with Shelley Hendrix after these messages. Today has partnered with Cox Communications to bring Inclusion Films to San Diego. Led by Joey Travolta, Inclusion Films teaches filmmaking to developmentally disabled children.
It's a practical film camp where we take them through the process of making a film. And each group, we split them into 3 groups, and they're each responsible for making a short film together as a group.
How many people like animation in this group?
This is a wonderful opportunity for children to build their self-confidence, to develop new friendships, and it's also an opportunity for their siblings to come and to enjoy the company of other peers in this really wonderful, fun setting.
Okay, so you know what time it is?
Cox Communications has years of supporting the community. We believe in giving back to the communities we serve, and military, youth, and education are our 3 pillars. And so this really matched up with everything that we're about and what we're trying to do to give back to the San Diego community. And so we were thrilled to meet up with ACT Today and Inclusion Films and to have this wonderful synergy. 3 organizations really trying to move towards a common cause.
All right, we're ready? There you go, got it. Okay, you'll be talking to me, okay? So tell me your name, say my name is.
In the past, we've done The Junior Apprentice, which was a takeoff on The Apprentice, the Really Late Show, which is a takeoff on The Tonight Show. And this year, we're doing a combination of 60 Minutes and Entertainment Tonight called 30 Minutes Tonight.
Okay, good. So now you understand what an improv is. You guys get the idea what an improv is? To go with the flow of something, especially in the action.
My son Elijah, he's into movies and he's into music, and so this program might bring out his particular skills.
Amazing. You're like a professional animator.
Every single person here we've met has been so kind, loving, and caring. They've given Nicholas the opportunity to be himself and be around people who have the same passion and interest as he does.
What is it you learned at Copenhagen? What did you learn?
That filming is kind of tricky.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp. And they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get 2 kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate. And when they collaborate, they come up with a product that everybody can see. They're a part of something. They become a community. They become a family. When you make a film, you really become a family.
Are we having fun at film camp? Yeah! We are close to Hollywood. Yep. And Hollywood is always looking for young talent like this.
Autism is an epidemic and is not going to get any better anytime soon. Families are struggling to pay the bills, to put food on their table, let alone provide services for their children. And ACT Today is a vehicle of support for these families by helping them get access to life supports that they couldn't otherwise have.
My experience in film camp has been great, and I just really love how all you guys decided to bring us together.
What I learned here, I learned to animate, how to operate the plot board. I learned about the animation and filming and editing.
Making friends. Making new friends and acting.
Meeting new friends. You can be anything you want to be.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We have a very special guest that we're thrilled to have joining us via Skype, Shelley Hendrix, who is the Director of Grassroots Development for Autism Votes, which is an initiative from Autism Speaks, is joining us via Skype. Are you there, Shelley? Okay, wonderful. And we're also going to get her up on the screen.
Yeah,
too.
We'll get her up on the screen in just a second.
But Shelley, I think they can hear you now.
Right. I guess quite simply what we want to know first is, what is the mission of Autism Votes?
snacks, and several other
We
fall, we are trying very hard to encourage members of our community to engage the candidates at all levels, whether they're running for president, Congress, or Senate, or even state legislatures, to get them involved and make sure that our candidates know about the issues that face autism.
In fact, you've started a campaign called 1 in 88, and tell us, we've been showing the spot here on the show and encouraging people to watch it, but tell us a little bit about what the 1 in 88 is, what the genesis of it is, and what you would like for our viewers to do today and every day until the election.
Well, we have 27 days to go until November the 6th. We would like to make sure that the autism community is engaged, that everybody's registered, and that they plan to get out their vote on November the 6th. This is a very important election year. It's what we call a Big Four election year. So it's not just the president, but the entire Congress, House that will be turning over, and a third of the Senate on the federal level. So it's really important. There's gubernatorial campaigns that are going on and state legislature campaigns that are going on. It's really important for our community to get out and vote and speak their mind for the candidate of their choice, regardless of whatever party they're in. And to also try to engage with those candidates to set a foundation so that they understand the issues that surround the autism community. The 1 in 88 campaign came from the numbers that were released by the CDC in March, and it is long past time for our legislators and our political leaders to listen to our community. We have a much bigger voter base than they probably imagined, because for every single one of those there is an army of supporters that are behind that. There's, parents and grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, caregivers, and therapists that are and teachers that are associated with that child or that person with autism, and they can also be a voice.
Well, let me ask you, though, Shelley, before we move on to the presidential debates, how can the average citizen and someone who has a concern about the issue of autism, how can they find out where the candidates stand? That's a big concern for me. I really don't know where the candidates stand on autism, sometimes on the local level or on the national level. So how do we find out that information?
Well, first we have to ask them to take a stand, and that's part of what we're trying to do, is get the autism community involved to let them know that we would like them to know what their plan is and their leadership would be with regard to the issues that face our community. And until we ask them, it's very hard to get an answer from them. And so far, we don't really have a direct answer from either of the campaigns. You know that the Republican National Committee and the Democrat National Committee incorporated some issues regarding autism within their own platform. So that was a significant thing to have that happen this year. And we need to press them really hard as a community to do more. We're going to be launching an October Surprise, hopefully tomorrow on October 11th, nationwide. We've asked, there were some good friends of mine, a woman from Florida and a woman from Ohio, that helped organize the first big political rally that was held in Washington, D.C. 12 years ago in April of 2000. And they were really moved by the PFA and thought it would be great for us to have a candidate contact day. And we agreed with them and helped put together a package that we've rolled out to most of the autism organizations nationwide. It kind of was moving really fast over the last 24, 48 hours. But hopefully all of those organizations are working to be able to get messaging out to their constituencies to direct the community tomorrow, especially to contact the campaigns. And it won't take very long. We got it where it's really, really easy, where you can cut and paste an email and send it into the Romney campaign, the Obama campaign, where you can have an easy direction to Facebook them. It's on their Facebook page, and then also especially on Twitter. And there's not as many people in our community that are signed up to participate in Twitter, but Twitter is a really, I don't like it. It kind of freaks me out a little bit. But
I tweet now, I regretfully have been pulled along kicking and screaming into having to tweet. So I promise you I will tweet this, and hopefully I'm sure that ACT Today will get this information, and I can promise you that we will get it out to all of our database, all of our social media. We'll make a huge effort to do this to help out.
And on Autism Live tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. our time, 8 a.m. Eastern time, it will be on our Facebook page, and people can go there to see what exactly they want to do. But there are tons of other places that they can go to find it, right, Shelley?
Absolutely. We will have it on the Autism Votes website. We'll have it on our Facebook page. We'll have it on the Autism Speaks Facebook pages, both the national one and then the ones that we have for different communities. And then several other organizations have indicated that they'll be posting it as well all across America. So hopefully people will be able to get the information really quickly. I just wanted to go back to Twitter just for a second and explain why that's an important venue for the autism community to access. And that is because for whatever reason, it's become sort of the political and media social platform. And the politicians really, really pay attention to tweets, which have been both attributed to the rise and fall of different politicians. But the media is also paying close attention to that. And through the little hashtags that you put in front of words, what it does is if a lot of people are posting it over and over again, it'll trend on Twitter. And if it starts trending nationally, it will definitely draw attention to our community. And that's what our goal is.
Okay, so this is that tap on the shoulder that we were talking about earlier. This is how we're going to tap them on the shoulder. We're all going to be tweeting ourselves into oblivion tomorrow.
And we're going to put it on all our social media, and we're going to get it out to all of our the people that we serve at ACT Today, from people who get grants to donors to volunteers, and you're going to do the same with
Absolutely.
Autism
You know
Live.
what this reminds me of? Horton Hears a Who. It took all of the Who's yelling at the same instant in order for Horton to make everybody hear. And so that's what we need to be tomorrow, our Who's, and all yell at the same time.
Okay.
Now, 8 a.m.
Exactly, starting at 8 a.m. and continuing all throughout the day. And it's really important for us to remember to engage our family and our friends, whether they are really integrally involved with our life in the autism community or not, because we want to pop that autism bubble. They all love us. They love our children. They love our adults with autism. They're always saying, everybody's always saying, what can I do to help your family? I wish there was something I could do. And I always say, well, we've paid casseroles. You're welcome to drop one off any night, or or you can just do this simple tweet for me. And if you can tweet this to your friends or Facebook it to your friends and help us spread the word. But we really want to pop the autism bubble this go around. One of these two candidates, either Obama or Romney, are going to be seated in that Oval Office come January. And they oversee all of the agencies that directly affect our community, the NIH, the CDC, the FDA, EPA, HHS, education, the Department of Labor for jobs in our future, and they touch on issues that are important to us like Medicaid and health insurance. So it's really important that we let them know that our community can't wait anymore, and that when they're making decisions for the next 4 years, the decisions that they make need to have autism in the back of their mind. How will this affect the autism community? How can we help make things better for our families and our loved ones that are living with autism?
Absolutely. We should take a break.
Yeah, because we want to ask a little bit more about the
debates and
then get into your journey as a parent, and where most of us began our journeys on this path of becoming advocates and activists for autism. So we'll take a break, and we'll be right back with Shelley Hendrix from Autism Votes.
My son.
My son.
My brother.
My daughter is one of the
1 in 88 children on the autism spectrum.
I have autism.
I have autism.
I have autism, and I want you to see me as an individual
and not as a label.
I want to find out why my brother has autism.
I want the government to say that
autism is a public health crisis.
I need to know who will take care of my child when I'm gone.
I want to know what treatments.
What solutions are out there for my child?
We need insurance reform
In all 50 states.
I want autism to be an unavoidable topic for those running for office this fall.
I want my students to be
Safe in school.
I want the bullies to leave me alone.
Autism Speaks encourages all Americans to ask candidates, how will you make a difference for those living with autism?
I want a Senate.
a president,
A Congress that recognizes autism
It's an urgent public health
crisis it is.
I want our lawmakers to listen.
Make your voice heard this election. Visit autismvotes.org.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And we have Shelley Hendrix here with us today from Autism Votes. A very important time of year to support the work of Autism Votes and to mobilize our autism community to get our political candidates behind supporting us and what we need as a community. So, Shelley, we like to find out, Shannon and I always love to hear about the personal story, the personal journey of each person that becomes involved in making the world a better place for those families and individuals with autism. How did that start with you? How did you become involved?
I became involved on April 27th, 1998, when my son Liam was diagnosed with autism at the age of 28 months. And we knew something was going on with him when he was about 17 months old, and we did what every family does, and we checked him out a million different ways, and the end result was the diagnosis of autism. And I wasn't really happy about being drafted into this army initially, and I didn't handle it very well for the first couple of months. And then I majored in political science in college, and I also had a sales and marketing background, and I started getting involved with the autism community with that. I thought, you know, I can go to Washington and I can be a really loud mouth, so I need to put those talents to good use. So I've been advocating for people with autism really actively since 1999 and have been integrally involved with it. I love what I do every single day. I jump out of bed so that I can find new ways to shake, gravel, and roll and get autism notice on political levels and try to get the community engaged, because one of the things that I've noticed over the years is everybody's very good at, especially with social media, especially since Facebook's come around, everybody's good at saying what they're frustrated with, how they're impacted every day. And what advocacy allows you to do is kind of focus and direct that energy to people who can help you, whether that's focusing it in on your teachers and your school board so that you get an appropriate education for your child, or whether that's focusing it in on state legislators so that you can access insurance treatment for coverage for treatments for your children and adults, or whether we're focusing it in on the federal government to say we really need help and here's where we need help. And the best thing that I find about living in the United States is that we have an opportunity every day that is given to us to approach our political leaders and tell them that there is a problem, offer a solution, and then ask them to please put that into action so that our lives can improve. And we have that ability. We have the ruby flippers. We just need to put them together.
Shelley, how old is your son now?
He's 16.
And so you're in that period of time that we talk about a lot here on the show, that transition time. Do you have specific concerns for your son and for that age group that you want to address with the politicians?
I have huge concerns for him, and he was very severely impacted when he was younger, and he's doing very well today. He's still definitely impacted, and but he's doing pretty well. He's active in Boy Scouts. He has a job at McDonald's, and he's attending a regular high school setting. He got a 3.0, so we're really proud of him for that. But he does still have significant issues, and we're hoping, just like every parent hopes, that one day he won't be living on our couch, and he will be living in his own apartment and taking care of himself, that he won't be spending all of his grocery money on Legos, and that he be able to take good care of himself and hold down a job and live independently and hopefully have his own family one day. He wants that for himself. He wants 2 boys and a girl, a wife, and his sister wants that for him too, because she loves him to pieces, and she will be the first one to scrap and defend him, but she wants him living in his own place.
That's that's a testament to you, Shelley, that you said he was severely impacted, and the fact that your son at 16 has a job, has a 3.0 grade average, is into Scouts, and I mean, when I hear this, I can't tell you the admiration I have, for I know the sense of commitment that you've had to have not only to your own child's care and development, but the work you've done with the community at large. And I know Shannon and I both just have such admiration for you.
Absolutely. And I know, Shelley, in previous conversations with you, that you, as you just mentioned, you have a daughter who's not on the spectrum. And I've heard you say that the work that you do for both of your children. How has autism impacted your daughter who's not on the spectrum, and why is it so important that you do this work for her?
Because I really, honestly, when I got started with this 12, 13 years ago, we've come a long way in the autism community, but I just really didn't think we'd still be pushing this hard for things. And I remember telling her when she was a little girl that we'd have this all straight by the time she grew up and wanted to have children of her own. And it's something that she's very concerned about. I mean, she's had to deal with it for her entire life. She was 6 weeks old when Liam was diagnosed, and she's really never known anything differently. And we're very blessed that Liam's doing well. And people ask me all the time, they're like, what did you do, to help Liam? And I'm always like, well, we did everything. And I don't know what to tell you worked, best. I think we attacked it in a different, we tried to make sure that he was physically healthy, and then that he was, that his sensory involvement calmed down, and then we worked on behavioral components, and then we worked really hard on personality with him, because my thought was, if you're a really nice person, then you will get further in life, and you don't necessarily have to be able to sit down and discuss Chaucer with people over coffee on Saturday morning. But you do have nice.
That's wonderful.
Yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and yes, sir, and be a good boy. And he's a really good kid. But I tell Marin every day when she's like, oh, you're doing this again, and 6:30, could we please have dinner? And why are we having to go do this instead of going to do other things that other families do? And I say, I'm trying to get this all done so that you don't have to deal with this when you're an adult.
Well, that's an admirable thing, and we're glad to be in the fight with you to get it done. We're going to take another short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the debate that you were at last Thursday and moving forward. In particular, we want to talk to you about one of the things that got said at the debate. So stick with us. We'll be back more with Shelley Hendrix after these messages.
I'm Joe Montaigne. As a father of a daughter with autism, I know the challenges that brings. Military families impacted by autism wage a battle on 2 fronts. One for their country, and another for their children.
I know you, God knows, we're in a battle zone. Well, I'm fighting the war back here, and I'm fighting it all alone.
With 1 in 88 military children diagnosed with autism, the families face extraordinary challenges. But there is hope. With intensive treatment, the lives of children with autism and their families can be changed. You can make a difference.
The day we've all been waiting for.
To learn how you can help a military child with autism, go to acttodayformilitaryfamilies.org. Thank you.
Maybe tomorrow.
We're back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and we have as our guest Shelley Hendrix from Autism Votes, and she is talking about ways that we can mobilize as a community to have more political power. So, Shelley, we wanted to talk to you because you were at the debates in Denver, and what your general impressions were after being present. What did you come away with?
I learned so much, and you know, for me, as a political nerd as I am, this was like going to the Super Bowl, and it was really incredible. I learned so much being there in Denver that we're going to try to replicate and improve on when we go to Hofstra, and we'll have a presence at the vice presidential debate tomorrow, and then Hofstra next week on Tuesday, and then finally in Boca Raton on October 22nd. One of my biggest takeaways there was probably, I have never seen so much media swarming in my entire life. I mean, there were people coming from all over different countries, and it was really interesting to sit down and talk with them and have them say, like, this group of Polish reporters were like, thank goodness you're here. We're so glad that you came here to talk about this. This is a huge issue in Poland. Or, you know, there were film crews from South America. The entire world is watching this stage right now. So it's important not only for us here in America, but we can help impact the autism communities that are across the country, across the world, just by having this issue acknowledged.
I got to ask you, Shelley, because I think we were all sitting there waiting to see if autism was going to be brought up at all in the debate, and the word autistic was uttered by President Obama, and it was one of those win-lose moments because a lot of people were offended at the term autistic, especially it seems like the younger generation. We don't refer to our kids as autistic, we refer to them as having autism, but the older generation of young adults prefer to be called autistic, but a lot of parents were offended. What is your take on this Obama saying autistic?
Well, my personal take was I was actually in the debate. So I was sitting in the room on the floor. I was like 2 feet behind Nancy Pelosi and a couple of seats behind Michelle Obama, which was crazy. And I had a very conservative Republican woman that was sitting to my right that was a lobbyist from Washington, D.C. And then I had on the left, hilariously, I had a couple that was very integrally involved with the Obama campaign. And they knew why I was there. We had to be seated about 45 minutes before for security purposes and everything. And when Obama made the mere mention autistic kid, the woman on my right, the Republican woman, just squeezed my arm and said, "Oh my gosh, he said it." And I had to be really quiet. They had warned us that if we even peeped or whispered or anything, they would throw us out on our. So I had to be really, really quiet. I was happy that there were only 2 health issues that were mentioned during the entire debate. One was autism and one was diabetes. And they're up there and they're talking really fast and they're covering a lot of things and they've been prepped on a million different issues. So for autism to be, to get a shout out, I was pretty thrilled with that.
Yeah.
I know that it did cause some repercussions throughout the community. And we obviously have educating still left to do across the board on using people's first language. And I usually try my best to use people's first language as well. But I think what it did for our community is potentially crack the door. And I think I would really love it if the autism community would shove that door wide open between October the 16th. And and get the issues debated. We don't want it to be a mere mention. We don't want it to be pandering to our community. But if the community works really hard over the next 5 or 6 days, it's possible that we could see our issues being addressed at the debate at Hofstra University, where they'll be discussing both domestic and foreign policy issues.
What do you think the chances are that we're going to get both parties to lay out a plan for dealing with this epidemic? Do you think we have a good chance at accomplishing this?
I think we have a good chance if we really, really, really make sure that they know that we're a loud, active community. I think if we don't do that, and if everybody doesn't try to push on it, then we get what we ask for. So
okay. We've only got time for one more question because I know you got to pick up your children at school. We're all moms in this, right?
Yes, that's right.
But okay, so here is my $64,000 question for you. If you could script a response from one of the candidates, which would them saying something that would be the thing that you most want to hear, what would it be? Did you hear me?
You can think. You can get there. That's a big question,
It is a big question. But I think you have to know what you want.
Yes, you do.
So what would it be for you?
I think what I would like to see is a dedicated office for autism issues within the administration, so that we can address all of the issues that face our community. And if we could get like they have a special office for AIDS research, and I think that that the issues that face our community are so comprehensive, and they cover so many different areas that I think it warrants a little office in the West Wing. And I think that we should have someone who's specifically there to address our issues over the course of the next 4 years to really make sure that we're organizing it and moving it forward in a concerted effort.
And Shelley, if they asked you to head that office, what would your answer be? I'm putting you on the spot.
No, you are putting me on the spot. Good grief. I don't think I would be at the top of that list. I would be honored to get asked for that, but I don't think that I would remotely be at the top of that list. And I love what I do every day. I get to do what I do best, which is be a cheerleader and try to get everybody to do what I know they can do and inspire them to do it.
So everybody has to be on the lookout tomorrow for the information on how to get the candidates to address this issue. You can also stay informed by registering for Autism Votes. You can go to autismvotes.org. Is that correct, Shelley?
Yes, ma'am. If you go there, it'll direct you right to where you need to be.
And then you can go to Facebook at www.facebook.com, obviously, /Autism Votes. And you can get a summary of their policies and principles, and how to become involved in this very, very important issue of autism in the 2012 presidential election and elections across the country. Don't forget local politicians to find out where they stand and how they're going to move our community forward.
Absolutely. Shelley, thank you so much for being with us. We're all going to be tuned in, dialed in tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're gonna be the Horton Hears a Who. We're going to be the Who voices that yell all at the same time in one direction so that we are heard.
And thank you, Shelley, for the work you're doing. It's so important that we mobilize politically along with all the other things we're doing to make a better life for our children and individuals and their families living with autism, and you have certainly been a leading force in that. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, bye-bye.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we've got some interesting other things that are happening this weekend.
Yes, we do. This weekend, a very important communication fair coming up, and we're going to tell you about that for the Hispanic community.
And the ARI conference is happening this weekend.
That's correct.
So we're going to divide and conquer this weekend, you and I.
That's right.
So stick with us.
Stay with us.
ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, was founded in 2004 by several passionate parents who believe that access to early, effective treatment is vital for individuals with autism. Together with Dr. Doreen Graham-Pache, the world's leading provider of therapy for autism, this group created ACT Today to do just as the name implies, take action immediately to treat autism spectrum disorders.
A lot of families and parents and even physicians don't yet accept the fact that we are recovering children with autism.
In 2006, inspired by her struggle to get treatment for her young son Wyatt, television producer and author Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson and her husband Reed hosted a backyard benefit for the foundation called Denim and Diamonds for Autism. Tens of thousands of dollars were raised, and in 2008, Alspaugh-Jackson took the helm of ACT Today as executive director.
This country has to come together to save a generation of children.
With a dedicated board of directors, a small but committed staff called the A-Team, as in autism, ACT Today is making a huge difference in the lives of children across the country. Grants that fund programs for behavior therapy, special needs schools and summer camps, medical needs like diagnostic tests and special diets, basic safety equipment such as helmets for children who repetitively bang their heads, and fencing for those who wander, assisted technologies and assistance dogs.
Hi, my name is Max, and I love my iPad too. It's so great. I can take photos.
In 2010, ACT for Military Families became the first national campaign to benefit military children with autism.
I'm Joe Montaigne. As a father of a daughter with autism, I know the challenges that brings.
ACT Today continues to educate and raise national awareness on the need for early and intensive intervention for an epidemic that affects at least 1 in 110 children.
I called on November 1st. And I'm like, how am I going to get notified? How are you going to let me know? And they ended up looking and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above.
ACT Today, fulfilling its mission of helping families with autism, one child at a time.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We've got a big, exciting weekend coming up, and I know you've got someplace that you're going. Tell us what's going on.
Yes, we have, let me see if I get this right, because I'm not fluent in Spanish, but the 4th annual Es el Momento Feria de Educación, which is an education fair, which is being sponsored by Univision, and they are events in Austin, Texas, and Los Angeles, and this is an expansion of a program that they have been doing, and last year 50,000 parents and students attended the 3rd annual event. Now, at each of these fairs, the parents learn how to successfully navigate their children through the U.S. Education Center system, and what we did was we added an autism component to that. So we are going to have Dr. Evelyn Garcia, who is our leading consultant for ACT Español, which is a program specifically for the Hispanic community, and Gabriela Tessier, who is an anchor on Univision and an autism mom.
We've had her on the show.
Yes, we have. And so we will have all of this information available. We will have pamphlets, I believe DVDs, and we will actually have people there to help give you information on ways you can navigate the system if you believe you have a child that has symptoms of autism, where to get a diagnosis, the proper treatment, where to go and get it. So we would like everyone to attend this. It is at CSU Dominguez Hills on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it says you can go to, you can call 626-403-3200. I don't have a website here, but you can call 626-403-3200 and find out more about the fair.
And you know, these kinds of events are so wonderful because you get hooked up with so much information, and the focus of it is education, which is brilliant. And of course, there are going to be a lot of people there who can translate. If you have people in your family that are primarily Spanish speakers, it's going to be a wonderful thing. But if you are not Spanish speakers, don't feel like you can't attend this. This is a wonderful event to go to. I know when Gabriela was here, she was saying how how wonderful and inclusive it is. These are great opportunities to take our kids out and be in social situations.
Yes, it is.
Perfect situations in which to go someplace. You want to make sure that your child is not a flight risk and that you address that in whatever way you need to, but a wonderful event to go to where you're not going to have to spend money to have a good time with your child and give them an opportunity to socialize.
Right. So CSU Dominguez Hills is where it's at, once again, and I'm going to give that number because I don't have a website here, 626-403-3200 to find out about information about taking part in this fair that is designed for the Hispanic community to get all kinds of information about education in general and help from nonprofits, but specifically our booth will be about autism.
Absolutely.
Act Espanol.
Absolutely. And so you can do that in Los Angeles, but there's also one in Austin, Texas, too.
I believe there is, or there was last year, but that's what it says. So could be wrong about that.
And then this weekend, I am going with Emily. We're taking off to the ARI conference. We had Denise Fulton on a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
This is the Autism Research Institute's. They have 2 conferences every year, one in the spring and one in the fall. They do the spring one on the East Coast and the fall one on the West Coast. And so we're off to go to that, and we're going to get a bunch of interviews to bring back and show on the show.
And Dr. Doreen Graham-Boucher, the founder and director of CARD, is going to be presenting, is my understanding.
Absolutely. Right? On Sunday morning, she'll be there presenting about ABA. It's a very all-inclusive conference talking about medical support for children on the autism spectrum and everything. ABA and
it's a wealth of information. That conference changed my life.
It's amazing. And this year they even have workshops for, I think, starting at age 12 and up for individuals on the spectrum for working with them on specific skills.
That's great.
So really amazing. If you want more information about ARI or about these conferences that happen in the spring and the fall, and remember, even if you can't attend them, as we were saying way earlier in the show this morning, if you can't attend them, they will videotape the different speakers and make them available at a later date to you on the web. So if you want to find any of that information, it's very simple. You can go to www.autism.com. How about that for an address?
That's easy.
It's easy.
I love those easy addresses. Yep, that's a good one.
So you can find out more information there. I'm really interested. On Friday night, Ken Cook is going to be there doing his rather famous and talked about speech 10 Americans, talking about the environmental issues that have the potential to affect us all, whether we have children on the autism spectrum or not. And I'm very interested in hearing about that. That's got my ears perked.
Yes, we know environment now is a trigger and certainly figures into this autism equation. We've all got to become better educated about that.
Well, and as a mom who has autoimmune issues and as a child who has autoimmune issues and autism, I'm incredibly interested in what Mr. Cook has to say.
So I want you to fill me in on that.
I will give you a blow by blow, and we know that we're going to be able to talk to Ken Cook while we're there. We already have that confirmed that we're going to get an interview with him, so we can share that on the show as well. We're about out of time, but we need to talk about how people can get a hold of us, because if you're watching this, we want you to know that this entire show is meant to be a conversation, and you can talk to Nancy and I about upcoming events that you're going to, or topics that you would like to see us cover here, or people that you'd like to see us interview here on the show.
We want to hear from you about potential guest. We're always
Whether that's
interested.
You or somebody you know about.
You might have a story that that our community needs to hear.
Absolutely.
And we're looking for information and inspiration as well from some of the things that have helped your children, your families, and any way you are making a difference in the world of autism.
I love Nancy has an expression she calls the kitchen floor club.
That we've all been there on the kitchen floor. It's the lowest point. You're down there, you're sobbing, you're crying, and you have this sort of epiphany that life can get better. And most of us seem to have this thing that happens that says, if my child is helped, I want to help other families. And that's how a lot of us end up in this field, right?
This crazy place that we never thought we
would be in. But here we are.
But here we are.
Here we are.
But in any case, we love having conversations with you. We hope that you will give us information about what you would like to see here on the show. Matt's going to show you a bunch of things on the screen, ways that you can get in touch with us.
Contact us.
Email, Facebook, Twitter. You are much better at the Twitter than I am, but I'm trying trying to get better.
Well, I just tweet information. I retweet and tweet and, you know, try to get it out there. But I still am not really in that whole Twitter link.
It's interesting that Shelley was saying that our community is not as prevalent on Twitter as they are on Facebook. Maybe it's just one of those things that it takes a little bit of time, and we just don't have the time.
Well, I think Twitter is just so instantaneous, and we're more used to conversations, you know.
Maybe. But we're getting better at the Twitter, so we hope that you will participate with us in all the different ways that you're seeing on the screen and all the different ways in which you can watch the show. And please share the information that you find here freely. The information is free, and so we encourage you to share it. And also want to remind you that at 8 o'clock tomorrow Eastern Time, it's going to be bright and early for us. At 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, we all need to be as loud as we possibly can in as many different ways as we can.
Tweet and social, you know, Facebook, and we've got to post this. We've got to make this a major political issue. Until we are heard politically, we will not have power. That is a fact.
And you know how sometimes there's just something that trends on Facebook, how everybody changes their pictures to be, you know, their childhood star or their favorite cartoon character or something. We really need to be a presence in that way on Facebook tomorrow.
Let's trend it.
Everybody needs to participate. And as Shelley was saying, not just the people inside the bubble. We need to pop the bubble. That means making your friends and family and relatives participate as well. Saying, can you do this one favor one day? Right. We can get this done. Si se puede. We can do this.
Okay.
I thank you for this time, and I always
see you
appreciate
next
it when
week.
you're here. And I hope that until tomorrow, when I'm back with you at 10 a.m., that you will give your kiddos a hug from me.
That's right. And just go out there and run your own race.
Bye-bye, you guys.